Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America and across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful May the 1st, 2019, Grando Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, somebody snuck away the last month we just had and slid May up in here. You know, I got me confused. All of a sudden, I'm watching basketball, I'm watching baseball, I'm watching hockey. I seen a football draft and everything. So I guess April just was swooned right away from me.
I guess the calendar got fooled. It should be April Fool. Now, is it called May Fools, Big C? Does May Fool did that make any sense, your thoughts?
Well, they got me. I guess I was sleeping on the days, Charlton, but all of a sudden, we got May rolling around here. We got football just 3 months away.
Yeah.
My, how the time flies.
How time flies. Everything is fair, love, and war. I even saw the Attorney General deciding he didn't want to talk. Isn't it amazing? You hire somebody as your Attorney General, and they say, well, I don't want to talk. What a time to get a clam mouth, Big C. Everything's happened in the world of the sports universe. Major League Baseball stadiums are empty. We've been talking about this, Big C, for the past year. And I know that so many people think that if we don't give a guy $430 million, that people are not going to come to the games. And oftentimes, people think, well, if we just give this guy $330 million, that people will show up. And they're not showing up. And I think that's a shame for the game of Major League Baseball. I would hate to see America's pastime, ruined because people can't afford to go see a game. I do want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Would you believe that today the Oakland A's played the Boston Red Sox, and you can get a ticket for as little as $3, Big C. $3 is not a typo. How does that make sense at Fenway Park, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that had to be a giveaway day. That's a sympathy day at Fenway Park. When you think about the price of tickets now in Major League Baseball and all professional sports, to hear about a $3 ticket, I mean, that's a phenomenal feat that the team is willing to do to allow people to get into the stadium.
Yeah.
But you're also looking at, this is hump day. This is Wednesday, middle of the week.
Yeah.
You're talking about middle of a work week, middle of a school week, Charlton. It's very difficult to get people out to the ballpark at this point. So all professional sports that are playing midweek games have to do something extraordinary during the daytime to draw in fans.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But we had talked about that too. I just like what you just said. It's hump day, middle of the week. And I know that you're probably the only person in the sports universe that talked about having some double headers when playing your games on, if you can, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or even a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but leave Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday alone because people aren't going to the games anyway. I know that may not make a lot of sense to the baseball universe, but when you see at Fenway Park, what better place can you watch a baseball game where the fans are just crazy about their sport than Fenway Park? So if Fenway can do it, maybe they won't stop playing, Monday through Wednesday, but everybody can save. If you got $5, you can go to a baseball game. That's incredible, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Major League Baseball where it stands right now, there have been 12 teams this year have a gate of less than 11,000 in attendance.
Wow.
And you think about those numbers in these Major League ballparks, and probably the smallest Major League ballpark you're going to find is anywhere between 41 and 43,000 seats, rather.
Yeah.
But when you think about that, you having an attendance less than 11,000 people at Major League games. And even the Toronto Blue Jays that we've talked about, you love that country up north, old Canada, whatever it is.
Old Canada.
Let's say where it snows a lot. Okay?
Yeah, where everything's free.
Their attendance is down 33% this year in Canada.
Yeah.
And they have a dome stadium, and that's leading major leagues in down attendance. So when we think about these early games that begin, baseball has began even earlier and earlier each year.
Yeah.
And you think about all of what it's competing against. You're competing against college basketball, the tournament.
Yeah.
You're competing against the NBA ending of the season and the playoffs that are starting.
Yeah.
You're competing against the NFL draft. You have a lot of competitive sports that you're going against. We just saw women's gymnastics and men's gymnastics.
Yeah.
So when you think about all these sports that you're competing against, you can competing against dollars. You can competing against the workplace,
Yep.
where people have to go during the day. And especially you're competing against education, where kids have to spend the time in school.
Yeah.
So baseball needs to find something, and that's the weekend games. We didn't even mention the NHL playoffs that's going on.
No.
That attracts a lot of people, especially the ones up there in Canada.
Yeah. Well,
So baseball is going to have to find a way to gravitate towards the weekend. And I'm serious about that Saturday and Sunday, especially Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But if you can put together double hitters on Saturday and Sunday, that's going to be more fan appeal, because now you're giving them an elongated day and evening to spend time together and get their money's worth out of it.
Yeah, well, that just proved that over at Fenway Park, they do follow Big C Sports in the Boston area. I know that when I was a young boy, you could go to a high school game, I think for about $2, maybe $3. Playoff game, maybe $5 or $6. But to have baseball have a heart, it's not always about profit. I know it's about profit for business. I'm not being ridiculous.
What business you talking about?
Well, when you think
you better wake up and smell the coffee, because
Okay.
the last time I checked, it wasn't anything for free in the world of sports.
Okay, I meant profit.
They want to charge you for your dreams.
Yeah, when you got dreams, we want them too. I meant profit like Jesus. Okay, so I covered myself with that one, Big C. But when you think about having the prescience to look forward and see things before they happen, every store does this. Whenever they have a discount or a sale price on meat or vegetables, produce, whatever it is, people tend to go and sell out because they have in that discount. So what is Boston doing? Boston's a forward-thinking region. They're not going to be second to many people in anything. Do you think they've started a trend, and maybe the commissioner will get on board that trend? But Big C, I'll give you credit, because you've been talking about this for over a year, and now it's happening. Will it be a growing trend? Your thoughts?
I don't think it's going to be a growing trend in baseball. You know, baseball is this sport with this unwritten rule thing. The unwritten rule, and this is part of that unwritten rule, is that you play when you want to play.
Yeah.
Baseball started in a time when they had no competitors. You got to realize this is the only major sport in America that's over 100 years old.
Yeah.
You know, football's just turning 100 years old this year. Baseball's been around for 135 years.
Yes.
So it has a lot of growth over the NFL. But when it came along, there was not a competitor. You didn't have the NHL, which is the second oldest sport.
Yeah.
You didn't have the NBA, which has become the upstart sport of all the professional leagues. You didn't have the NFL being the mega property that it is. Baseball has lost its toehold on American society.
Yeah.
And it's become the fourth major sport in America when you think of it. You look at these NHL hockey arenas during the playoffs. They have greater attendance than most Major League Baseball
Yeah, they
games.
do.
You know,
You're right.
the NBA games are going to be a sellout.
Yep.
And think about the 600,000 people that attended the NFL draft in Nashville. Great job to Nashville.
Yeah.
So baseball haven't took the mantra of the other teams, Charlton, to follow suit, to do something that's going to galvanize the fans, that's going to make them excited for being at the ballpark. You think about the hockey game last night, where you had a thrilling game that came down to the last minute before it was put away on an empty net goal. That was gravitating. You listen to the fans in this hockey arena cheering all the time. At a baseball game, you're sitting on your hands. Of all major professional sports, it is the least exciting of all of them.
Yeah, ironically, out here in Northern California, used to be AT&T Park, now it's Oracle Park. They changed the names because whoever pays the most go take the sponsorship. I still like calling Giant Stadium AT&T Park. It started at Pac-Bell Park, now it's Oracle. But when you think about this, you have back-to-back series in one of the most beautiful cities in the universe, in San Francisco, downtown, McCovey Cove. The New York Yankees just came to town. You could find the ballpark maybe about 70% full. And then the most hated rivals, just down Interstate 5 in California, the LA Dodgers, they come to town, and it's about the same, about 70% full. In San Francisco, that was anathema a couple of years ago because people wanted to see that team. But I wonder if some of the fallout, and it's probably not, is from Larry Baer and that incident he had with his spouse, that because women are half the audience now, Big C, they're half the ones that buy tickets. If that's something that maybe people are trying to silently protest, your thoughts?
If that was the case, then, Charlton, all the NFL stadiums would be half empty. So that has nothing to do with baseball attendance. What happened with an executive with the team and his spouse that had nothing to do with the game.
Yeah.
That was a personal life incident that occurred with them.
Yeah.
So, when you look at what baseball is trying to do, baseball is trying to do something that the NFL did in 1971.
Yeah.
When they introduced interleague play. You just talked about the Yankees coming out to San Francisco and playing because baseball knew that it was losing its momentum with the crowd out there.
Yeah.
And so the NFL went to interleague play once they put in the Super Bowl. They said, okay, we're going to have it's just not going to be the NFC playing the NFC and the AFC playing the NFC.
Right.
AFC. They put interleague play in, so all the teams, all 32, play each other. Baseball indoctrinated that several years ago, where they put interleague play. It was limited originally. Now it's getting to the point where it's all year long.
Yeah.
So now baseball is losing the luster of the World Series because you face somebody already in interleague play. It's not the American League versus the National League anymore.
No.
It's just baseball versus baseball.
You brought up something in the past, how I was saying that hockey is difficult for hockey to compete against NFL, of course, NBA basketball in the playoffs, and then you had the NFL draft. But hockey, you brought this to my mind, hockey has expanded in the United States since they began. I think they had originally 8 teams that began hockey.
6 teams, the original 6.
The original 6, and now they have had such growth. And even though the NHL is not going to be publicized as much as baseball, would it be anathema to say that NHL hockey is starting to have more of an interest for your middle of the road fan than baseball that's more exposed? That make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, hockey has exceeded baseball in the United States when you look at the overall impact of it.
Yeah.
You're thinking that the NHL is now expanded to a 30-team league.
Yeah.
And you look at the excitement that you're having in the playoffs. I mean, I'm watching the game last night between the Avalanche and the Sharks.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the electricity in that arena was higher than the electricity at Oracle between the Warriors and the Rockets.
Yeah.
So, a true hockey aficionado, and to appreciate hockey, you have to go to the game live.
Yeah.
You cannot understand hockey on television because you can't see all the sharpness on the ice. You can't see the movement of the puck.
Yeah.
You can't even hear and feel all of these things. So you have to be at the game. And these fans that go to a hockey game are knowledgeable sports fans.
Yeah.
You get fans at an NBA game, they've seen the game. Everybody thinks they know basketball. But basketball has changed over the years.
Yeah.
When you go to a baseball game, the average age of a baseball fan, the average age is 53 years of age.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about a sport that has lost its being in touch with the youth of America,
yeah,
where you don't have all these little leaguers dying to be in the ballpark because they can't afford it anymore.
Right.
But when the average attendance of your fans of a sport is 53 years of age, that meant that you lost a lot of the young crowd that brings the interest to your ballparks.
Yeah, and I know this may not be popular to say, but when you realize in America's economy, people can say, hey, the economy is great. It's not great for everybody, but it's perceptive. When you start bragging that we have a guy that's going to get paid $430 million, some people say, well, why in the world am I going to support that? I'll just get it on cable instead of spending $30 to park. And then for a family, maybe between $50 to $100 for a ticket. By the time you buy some libations, concessions, people can take a family of 4 and easily be out of $400 to go to a game if you want to buy a couple of jerseys or whatever. And it may just cost you, $40, $50 a month on your cable subscription. But because they've advertised so much money for certain players, maybe people feel like, why would I support rich guys? Does that make any sense at all? Your thoughts?
Well, it makes a lot of sense when you look at that, and it's not just in baseball. Think about how football is suffering. People talk about attendance. You're right out there in Oakland. I think when the Raiders moved back to Oakland, there was a personal seat license fee that you needed to pay to be in the Coliseum. And they've tarped off the top of the Coliseum for the past several years in Oakland because people don't want to pay for those personal seat licenses. Another story I heard today about personal seat license, the newest stadium in the NFL down in Atlanta, that Mercedes-Benz Dome where they had that Super Bowl last year. Their season ticket holders down to 50,000 this year. This is a 76,000 seat stadium. Their personal seat license, people are not renewing them. Now, they had a wonderful stadium in the Georgia Dome. They tore it down because they wanted to build a new stadium and charge people seat license fees to come into the arena. That only lasts for a year, maybe two at best, especially if you're not winning. We saw the Atlanta Falcons have a down year last year, not making the playoffs. So their attendance down to 50,000 personal seat license holders. So they got 26,000 seats they got to fill. So they got to find a way. Think about the Rams. They're building this new stadium that's supposed to open up, I believe, next season.
Next season.
And you're talking about personal seat license in Los Angeles. Same thing is going to occur in Las Vegas when the Raiders go to Las Vegas. Personal seat license again. You got to force a fan to buy a personal seat license, then buy a ticket because it does not come with a ticket. So you're talking about gouging of fans on many levels. So when you see attendance down, baseball has tried this, the NFL has tried this. I don't know if the NBA is going to go that route, and I think Golden State's going to go that route in the Chase Center next year.
They will.
When you're talking about personal seat license, you're only having the elite attend games now. The well-to-do part of society. The middle-income family and person no longer can afford to go to sporting events.
And I want to add my own study because I do a lot of surveys out here in Northern California. There's a lot of lobbyists around Northern California State Capitol and San Francisco as well. I remember when I was a young boy, I used to sneak into Candlestick Park with a couple of friends of mine. I think what's also hurting the tennis, they have too much security around these stadiums. Makes you fuss.
Well, that's the reason why they got the personal seat license, because of what you did. If you hadn't done that, maybe they wouldn't have all this security around, and kids could still sneak into the ballpark. But, just what they've done. I mean, it's like society and many other things. It's called gentrification. And it's happened in professional sports, gentrification. You look at the movement of new stadiums and arenas from the old desolated areas in cities where they once were, where you had low-income families living around, and those kids could find ways to get into the ballpark, as you just suggested. Now that where you move into more upscale areas where there's security all around, and these stadiums are not as accessible to the youth. When you could ride your bike to a stadium, chain it to a fence, those stadiums are no longer accessible. They don't have these fences around these stadiums where these kids can go do that. You can sit outside sometime and beg for a ticket. They have done everything to take stadiums out of reach of the kids of America.
I agree.
And I know as a kid that's some of the things I used to do in the summer is ride my bike to the stadium. Chain it to a fence, stand out there, look sad with a puppy dog face, and somebody with an extra ticket would give you a ticket. Sometimes you ease to the back of the line, let them go in and sell the ticket and get a ticket from somebody else. That way you have hot dog money.
That's true. That's so funny. You're bringing back my youth. As a little kid, you do what you got to do, but there weren't as many kids in trouble back in the day. Tonight's Major League Baseball schedule. We know a lot of people are into NBA, and I can't wait until we get on that, but I just want to pay homage to our baseball brethren. We had some makeup games, today happening in the world of Major League Baseball. Still, all the flooding going on Oklahoma and in Missouri, just parts of the Midwest. Thoughts and prayers are with you. Please check on your neighbors and your family members. Make sure they're safe. New York.
There's even flooding going on in Detroit. That's how bad. But if you listen to our administration, there's no such thing as global warming. Warming, rather. But all these floods, these torrential rains, and tornadoes that are happening in the middle part of our country, up in the Midwest, the Northwest, Charlton. I mean, there's a problem, with what we have going on. And everybody wants to sit up and say it's fine, but these are American citizens that are suffering. I mean, we talk about sports and the benefits and the money that these athletes are making, but we have a government that has a fiduciary responsibility to its citizens. To not sitting there kowtowing on science, on global science, to say, well, there's no ill effects from global warming.
Yeah.
When we're looking at all these people losing everything that they have in America.
Shame.
Everything. And these people that couldn't afford to go to a sporting event prior to this devastation hitting them.
Yep.
Now they've had this hit them. I mean, the Red Cross is great. I mean, the Red Cross it's been a lifesaver in America for decades, and it has done everything that it can to help out Americans. But we need our administration to step up. When we talk about, I think he has a hat saying, "Make America Great Again."
Yeah.
Help those Americans who really need help.
Yeah.
And stop worrying about the foreign entities.
That makes a lot of sense, Big C. Tonight's Major League schedule, you have the Oakland A's at the Boston Red Sox. Talked about being able to get a seat for $3. That's incredible. Also, Tampa Bay at Kansas City. Two small market teams, but great baseball stadiums. You have the Pittsburgh Pirates at the Texans. And then the New York Yankees at Arizona down in the desert. Talk about a change of climate going there from the great northeast down to the desert southwest. Also, Toronto at Los Angeles Angels. That's like coast to coast, country to country playing. Two great cities in that series. The LA Dodgers at San Francisco. Now, we know that both of these teams came from the East Coast. They were New York teams. And it seems like it's kind of hit and miss out here in the West Coast, maybe because we're not in the summer yet. Give me your feeling. Is Giants, Dodgers baseball must see anymore? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, there's not much see baseball anyway. Even when you talk about the Giants, not the Giants, but the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Yeah.
But you think about the Dodgers and the Giants migrating from New York.
Yeah.
And coming out on the West Coast. We have to look at all the extra things that people can do.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it earlier, cable television, getting that package.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball has an MLB package where you can get any game that you want. So you don't have to go sit out in a hot stadium or a cold stadium and watch a game. Just like the NFL has the NFL package.
Yeah.
One of the things that all the professional sports leagues, the NBA, the NHL, have done to hurt themselves is that they package television.
Yeah.
And for the person who doesn't want to go sit in an arena or a stadium and go through all the things that you discussed, trying to find parking, trying to get the family of 4 or 5 into the game, and sometimes you had to pull straws to see which kid was going to go and who was going to stay at home. I know that's how it was when I was growing up.
Who's going to watch the bicycles?
This is all major sports. When they talk about attendance is down, along with the cable networks, have hurt the attendance at these ballparks.
Yeah.
You have to understand what you think is good for you is also can be equally as bad for you.
Yeah.
That's in anything. So don't drink too much, as I always tell everybody. Don't drink and drive. It might make you feel good, but it's bad for you.
Yeah, it is bad for you.
And so as I look at these games and the lack of attendance, and you talked about, I'm sitting back in my recliner. I can get any game I want at any time.
Yeah.
I can. Whether it's NFL, whether it's college football. I mean, growing up, and even when I played college football, there was 2 games on in college football on television. You had the early morning game, you had the afternoon game. That was it.
Yeah.
Now you get 30, 40 college games on Saturday.
Yeah.
Alone. We're not talking about the Friday night, the Thursday night, the Wednesday night games. But they're all on cable television.
Yeah.
So they're all readily available to watch
Yep.
at any time without leaving the comforts of your home, and especially in the wintertime. We watch the NFL season on the NFL networks, as well as all the cable channels to get a regional game.
Yep.
You can get whatever game you want. Think about the NBA. You can watch all the NBAs. Growing up, we got the NBA after the late local
At
news.
midnight,
That's when we got it in the playoffs.
Yep.
Now it's on all the time, and you get all the regular season games throughout. So when you see the attendance is down, get the MLB network for baseball.
Yep.
Whatever. If I want to watch the Cleveland Indians play, I can watch the Cleveland Indians play. I don't have to be in that local market. I want to see the Tampa Bay Rays play. I want to see the Colorado Rockies play. I want to see the Seattle Mariners play. All I have to do is tune it in.
Yeah, and a lot of people.
So that's what's killing the attendance, as well as that little cellular device in your hand.
Yep, the tablets and the
phones. You can watch it on that. You don't have to go to a game. You don't even have to be at home. You can drive down the freeway and rear end somebody.
Well, hopefully you're not doing that, especially Baltimore at Chicago. A lot of freeways up there. Houston at Minnesota. Colorado at Milwaukee. San Diego, the Padres at Atlanta. Cleveland at Miami. Detroit at Philadelphia. Harper got booed. How do you pay someone $300 million, $330 million, and he gets booed. Is he returning to why the Nationals didn't fight to keep him, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I guess, when you don't have a packed house, you're wondering why you didn't pack the house. And so they were probably mad because everybody else didn't show up. But the Washington Nationals offered him that money. They actually offered him more money in earnings than what he got from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
The Blues are going to be out there.
Yeah.
When you think about baseball, the best team in baseball right now is the Tampa Bay Rays at 19-9.
Yeah.
And so Philadelphia paying that copious amount of money to Harper, not just Harper, they went out and got a half dozen free agents that they opened the bank for.
Yeah.
And so the thing about baseball, it's about hitting.
Yeah.
It's not about how much money you make, it's how much contact you make with the bat.
How much contact you make with the bat.
And when the more money you make, the more it's thought that you're going to deliver.
Yeah.
And when you're not delivering, the Bluebirds show up in a hurry. And we know that Philadelphia, that city threw batteries at Santa Claus.
They booed, and he delivered toys. They still booed Santa Claus. Cincinnati at the New York Mets, Chicago at Seattle, Tampa Bay at Kansas City, and then Baltimore at Chicago. Talking about the Yankees, New York pitcher CC Sabathia, Northern California kid, is now destined for baseball's Hall of Fame. His 3,000 strikeouts, Big C, that guy, now he's not in shape. He's more like the old-time baseball players. They didn't have the Frank Thomas. He should hang out with the Frank Thomas, but maybe not. But he doesn't care about looking, svelte and in 6%, 10% body fat. He's a good old boy that likes to eat. He eats Big Macs. He likes his prime rib. But 3,000 strikeout, Big C, that's throwing strikes, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, one of the things you got to understand, you can pull muscles, but you can't pull fat.
That's not true. You ever hear of love handles? You ever hear of love handles, Big C?
You never heard of an athlete pulling fat. You hear about him pulling muscle.
Yeah.
And so CC, he works under that mantra.
Yeah.
But he joined an elite club last night in Arizona against the Diamondbacks, recording his 3,000th career strikeout. He joined an elite club of 17 other major league pitchers who've accounted for that many strikeouts in their career.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever see another pitcher account for 3,000 strikeouts. You think about the record holder in that, Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
Nolan Ryan averaged 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings during his illustrious Major League Baseball career. But CC Sabathia has done a wonderful job being a pitcher for the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
And last night he went into immortality in that 3,000 strikeout club, Charles.
Well, another milestone for the great CC Sabathia. Like Big C Sports, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Big C, on this date, speaking of Northern California, 1991, the great Rickey Henderson, would you believe he became baseball's all-time stolen base king? Another player that ran around on the Oakland dirt. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he eclipsed a record that many people thought would never be broken by the great Lou Brock of the St. Louis Cardinals, who was a teammate of Curt Floyd, who created free agency in baseball.
That's right.
He amassed Lou Brock's record, who was 938. Rickey hit it with 939 to break that record. And he did it at home in Oakland, where he grew up, where he went to Oakland Tech, played football and baseball there, Charlton.
Yep.
Went on to an illustrious career with the Oakland A's, moved on to the New York Yankees, won a World Series there, but came back and finished up his career at home in Oakland, and in front of the home crowd and fans, friends, and family, was able to break Major League Baseball's stolen base record.
Well, I'm telling you, nothing like seeing someone who performs so great, especially another Northern California kid, and seeing him do it here in Northern California and being a part of the Bay Area. It was always great to see that. We're going to come up on what's called the Big C Pause, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, Big C, we are back after the Big C Pause. We really love just paying homage to baseball. A lot of people don't. We still have a lot of baseball to happen this year. And just thinking about the people who are competing against baseball's fans, the baseball dollars. You look at the NHL hockey playoffs. Yesterday, NHL playoff action, the Blue Jackets defeated the Boston Bruins 2-1, and the Sharks defeated the Avalanche 4-2, as we talked about. So we're looking forward to those teams playing. And then NHL playoffs tonight, you have the New York Islanders at the Columbus Hurricanes, St. Louis Blues at the Dallas Stars. We know there's a lot of bad weather going on in those parts of the country, and we hope that hockey on ice, a game on ice, can take people's minds off of it. But if your house is flooded out and your property's flooded away, you're not concerned about a hockey game. But what will it mean for people just to get their minds off it? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, I mean, that's the last thing that anybody is thinking about a sporting event who has lost everything. And your thoughts and prayers. And I'm sure that those teams would do some community outreach financially, Charleston, to try to help and assist those people who have been stricken by the bad weather in the Midwest.
Yeah, and we just hope that, again, everybody can talk about thoughts and prayers. We really appreciate the fact that it's there for everyone to care about. And please reach out to people if you can. And speaking of reaching out, I want to talk about some of the most exciting sports in the universe when you look at NBA basketball. And I know sometimes, man, I love NBA basketball, Big C. We can't get away from people saying, was that a foul? Was that a travel? Was it really a three-point basket? And then they go the officiating crew. They want to call in, go to the sidelines, and they want to see was this really a foul? Was it really a three-point basket? Whatever it is, I want to bring your thoughts. NBA basketball, the Milwaukee Bucks defeat the Boston Celtics 121-102. They even their series at 1 apiece. And we know you had to get that win if you're Milwaukee. But they look just as good in Game 2 as they looked bad in Game 1. Give me your feeling on now as they're going back to Boston. Do you still consider Milwaukee to be the team that's the best in that series?
Well, I think they're still the best team in the Eastern Conference. It's about winning a series. Last night, it wasn't Giannis who stepped up. It was Eric Bledsoe who led the way for the Milwaukee Bucks with, 29 points, 9 rebounds. And that's what you have to do. People look to Giannis to be the leader all the time on the floor.
Yeah.
But they have such a diverse roster, Charlton, of young players, is that they really don't have that leadership role because they don't have any veteran mentorship when it comes to playoff guys to know what to expect. Last year Milwaukee was bouncing in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So they were in uncharted territory being in round 2. So that was a new thing for them. But, you had that second round jitters versus Boston in Game 1.
Yeah.
They woke up and realized we just have to go out and play basketball.
Yeah.
They have such a balanced lineup is that you just can't neutralize one player and say it's all over.
Yeah.
And last night, I like what Giannis did in deferring to other players, saying, hey, guys, don't worry about me doing it all.
Yeah.
Take your shots, and that's what happened.
Well, I love looking at Giannis play. I think he just reminds me of what the future is. He's tall, he's slim. Unlike, Joker, who's also tall but more svelte, more heavy-set player. Giannis is really like a world-class athlete. Love seeing that. I want to swing it out to the West Coast. And I know, ironically, we're so fortunate at this time to have a sports podcast, Big C. When you think about being able to watch any sport we want, have access to all the information, and then with your history just to pull up things at the blink of an eye. But seeing the Golden State Warriors last night, and now I grew up in Northern California from the days of Rick Barry back in the day. And to see how this team is really the new version of what we had with the Lakers and Showtime back in the day when Magic and Kareem and Byron Scott and Worthy were running the thing. Also what the Chicago Bulls had under the great Michael Jordan. This team's going after a three-peat. But I think a lot like the New England Patriots, they've taken on me against the world mentality. From whether I hear guys, whether it's Barkley or Shaq or Kenneth Jet Smith, Ernie, I think Barkley may have bet some money on Houston. I mean, everybody has their own opinion, but this seems to be, instead of appreciating a team that's great, why do we have people who hate to see greatness, Big C? That make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if it's hate to see greatness. I mean, there's always envy when you look at sports.
Yeah.
Whether it's from a player or a broadcast perspective. You're looking at people accomplishing things that you didn't accomplish during your career.
Yeah.
And when you look at that set, Barkley is the only one on that set that did not win a championship.
Ring, yeah.
Smith won multiple championships with Houston.
Yeah.
And he's not a cheerleader for Houston. Shaq won championships everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's not a cheerleader for anybody. Barkley missed the boat when he got to Houston.
Yeah.
But, he's going to root for a team, and you always got good cop, bad cop when you're looking at a broadcast.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody is generally hating from a broadcast perspective any team more than another one.
Yeah.
But when you look at this game last night, Houston dominated Golden State during the regular season. Matter of fact, they won all the games at Oracle.
Yeah.
So without a doubt, when you're looking at a broadcaster and even a guy who bets like yourself on games, You have to be looking at is, okay, they should win because they won the season series at Oracle.
Yeah.
And so that's what Barkley is looking at. Barkley's looking at it from a gambler's perspective.
Yeah.
Not an anti-Warriors
Right.
perspective. He's looking at it from a gambler's perspective.
Yeah.
And so, Charles loves the casinos.
Yeah, I know.
And, he's going to lay some money down. He'll bet on anything.
Yeah.
He'll bet on his weight, knowing that he'll lose. But,
Yeah.
but that's what you're looking at in a series like this. Golden State did what they had to do to win. They kept their starters on the floor. They don't have a bench right now because Iguodala's been put into the starting lineup because of Cousins' injury.
Yeah.
And so that has slowed this team down as far as bringing players off the bench, getting bench production. They're going to have to find a way to get at least 20 points out of their bench in one of these games if they expect to keep command of this series.
Well, I know, unlike a lot of people, we don't have a crystal ball. Sometimes you just go with your gut instinct, and oftentimes it can be right. You were saying a 5-game series. I was saying a 6-game series, but if they don't get Game 3 in Houston to win that game, and you know how things can be orchestrated and moved around, prop betting aside, then we'll probably even be looking at a sweep. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Houston at least gets one win out of this series. If you look at last night, 115-109, Golden State leads the series 2-0. But if anyone ever doubted, and sometimes people have doubt, we're just human. But when anyone says who's the best player in the NBA universe, it doesn't take long to call roll. Since when have you ever seen a 2-time NBA All-Star, the only unanimous All-Star in the history of the game, and Steph Curry, to become ancillary to a team that's named after him? And that's Durant. Durant is right now playing all facets of the game: offense, defense, assist, blocking shots, and he's keeping himself out of foul trouble. Here's a guy that had went to the basket. He was fouled and landed on his tailbone, which can be very painful. That's why a lot of football players even will wear a tailbone pad.
Well, that's the reason why we have big butts.
Okay, that's why okay.
All right. The Slim Reaper ain't got no meat back there.
Okay, he has no meat back there. But have you seen someone play with his heart? And he's so smooth, it doesn't look like he's hustling as much as a smaller guy like Chris Paul. Chris Paul is very jittery, very frenetic energy, bounces around. Every time you look at him, he flops on the ground on the foul. But Durant doesn't flop. He doesn't call unwanted attention. Who have you ever seen that's that smooth and that good, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I've seen many players over the decades that are that good. But, I mean, even when you look at his own team, Durant gets all the headlines. But the guy who's doing all the blue-collar work for me in this series is Draymond Green. Yeah. And he did it in the last series. When you look at Draymond Green, in his first 3 games, he's missed a triple-double by one assist and one point in each one of these games.
Yep.
That's the unsung hero right now of the Golden State Warriors. Yes, Durant's going to grab the headlines. Curry's going to grab the headlines because they shoot the 3-point shot.
Yeah.
But when you got a guy who's giving assists, going to the basket willingly, laying up the perfect lobs, you normally get that from a point guard.
Yeah.
You got a guy getting the rebounds, going out, leading the fast break. You normally get that from a point guard. You got a guy shutting down the opposing team's top offensive scorer that's at the guard position.
Yep.
Normally that's your guard covering him. Draymond Green is doing all the things that you don't ask of a player. He's just going out doing it.
Yeah.
The media is missing that during the broadcast because Kevin Durant is sexy when you come to a broadcast and talking about him knocking down a 32-foot jump shot.
Yeah.
Steph Curry coming off a pick and roll, knocking down a 30-foot jump shot, or going to the basket with a finger roll. Kevin, when you look at Draymond Green, when you look at the championships that the Golden State Warriors have won in the past, Draymond Green has really been the most integral part of all of those championships.
Yeah.
They lost one championship in this run, did they not?
Yep.
Why did they lose it? What player was not in the lineup?
NBA's
Draymond
favorite player.
Green. No one gives him credit for what he brings to this Warriors organization.
Yep.
All the vitriol and talk during the media, during the regular season that, Draymond Green has to go. He's a cancer for the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors go as Draymond Green goes.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. I love Kevin Durant, probably the best overall player in the NBA from a star perspective. That's what you got to look at. What is the marketability of a player?
Yeah.
Players that are not sexy, that are not marketable, people pay them no attention. It's like Julian Edelman when he won the MVP in the Super Bowl. He was the last choice that anybody wanted to have as an MVP. You look at Draymond Green. He could have easily been chosen the MVP of those 3 titles that the Golden State Warriors have won over the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And because he was out when the Cleveland Cavaliers won that 1 title, you have to say that Draymond Green is the most integral part of the Golden State Warriors.
He definitely puts on his hard hat. I love the attitude that he brings to the game. And I'm telling you, I know everybody has their own opinion, and Steph Curry is amazing. Sometimes when you're so good, people, they're not impressed when you can just drop 25 points easily. Klay Thompson, the best catch-and-shoot player I think I've ever seen. Have you ever seen anyone that did not even need a dribble that could knock down threes? Your thoughts?
Well, you never saw the Iceman play, or you never saw Pistol Pete Maravich. These are guys that played before the three-point shot. We look at the luster of the modern-day player because you have the three-point shot. Benny Microwave Johnson with the Detroit Pistons was the same way coming off the bench. He could light it up at any time. But George Gervin was a guy that could get off a shot from anywhere on the floor without hesitation, and he only had a 2-point shot when he was scoring, playing in the NBA. And you think about it, you look at some of his highest scoring seasons where he scored 35-plus points a game and did not have a 3-point shot.
Yeah, those are amazing players. I just think it's hard when you have an all-star team that is up 2 games to nothing. I feel for Houston. James Harden, and I wish he wasn't pulled in the eye because I want to see the best players. But it's not over. It's still a series. You just got to come out and win. Tonight's action, NBA action, just 1 game on tap. Portland Trail Blazers at the Denver Nuggets. Portland, as great as they are at home, they got to split this series. If not, I don't think they can come back and win 4 of the remaining 5 games. Denver, on the other hand, they could be had. They're kind of a slippery slope team. They may be better than they look, but maybe not as good as people think, if that makes any sense. Give me your feeling on Portland getting the win tonight.
Well, the thing is, you have to stop Jokic when you're playing Denver. I mean, you got a 7'2" point guard. That's a mismatch problem because if you bring your big man outside to cover him, then you have no one to protect the cup.
Yeah.
So you got easy access to the basket, and he's a tremendous passer, as I mentioned before. He was second in the NBA in triple-doubles, only behind Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
So when you think about this big man and how he can facilitate during the game, not only can he pass and rebound, but he's a great scorer also. He was in the top 10 in the league in scoring. So he's a triple threat all the time. So that's what makes defending Denver so difficult.
Yeah. I think you're very right about that, Big C. And we'll see what happens tonight. I wish everybody nothing but the best. It's still great when you see players. I like watching Damian Lillard play, a player out of Northern California, out of Oakland, but we'll see what happens. I want to just finish up on one thing on the NBA, and then I want to ask you a question about some college basketball and then some football. I want to get Big C's thoughts on the NBA playoffs right now. You've seen a series and a half. You've seen the first round. Now we're in the second round, and we've had most people play 2 games coming up tonight, making Portland and Denver. I want to get Big C's thoughts on how you still rank the teams Eastern Conference and Western Conference going forward, Big C, as we finish up the round 2. Your thoughts?
Well, Milwaukee was the best team during the regular season. Toronto was number 2. I still see those 2 teams meeting each other in the Eastern Final. I don't see any reason. Yes, Boston got off to a great start and dominated in Game 1.
Yep.
Toronto has split with Philadelphia. I think Toronto has just overall health and team speed against Philadelphia and will control the rest of that series.
Yep.
When I look at the West, Golden State has just come out with lights on fire. They led from start to finish in that game last night.
Yeah.
And when we talk about Denver and Portland is in desperation mode. If they don't win this game tonight, that series is over.
Yeah, let's talk about building a mile high. They might want to visit Denver if they don't get this series, if you understand what I'm saying. And speaking of basketball, I want to, down in Westwood, you think about the men that have not been able to fulfill the promise in Westwood. And when you said, Russell, Westbrook, and we talked about Kareem earlier, back in the days when they had Showtime. Think about UCLA, because I'm just drawn to UCLA used to be the Golden State Warriors of college basketball back in the days of John Wooden. But there are a number of coaches that haven't been able to return UCLA back to the days of winning championships, where there's Gene Bartow, there's Amari Bartow, there's Larry Brown. Gary Cunningham, Larry Farmer. There's Walt Hazard, Jim Herrick. It's Steve Lavin. There's also Steve Alford. And there's a Ben Howland. Now, when we talk about players that make a difference on a team, coaches on the college level can be given more credit than the players. But why has UCLA, which hasn't had a national championship basketball team since 1995, what's taking them so long to even get back to prominence, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, getting back to prominence is something that won't happen again at UCLA. The landscape has shifted in college basketball. John Wooden left a legacy that can never be fulfilled again. When you think about a coach winning 10 championships, that's a feat that will never occur again in this particular sport. You know, when you talked about Lavin won a title at UCLA, but it wasn't enough to keep his job out there at UCLA.
Right.
And so all of the media has moved the interest of college basketball to the East and the Southeast.
Yeah.
And so when you look at television coverage, which back in those days, UCLA was on television. Everybody wasn't on television. The ACC has become the big-time conference in college basketball. You got some Big Ten competition. You think about the University of Indiana.
Yeah.
What have they done since Bobby Knight has left there?
That's true.
So when you have coaches that have become legendary coaches, think about where will Duke go when Krzyzewski's gone. I mean, he's in his early 70s.
Yeah.
He can't be around for much longer in college basketball.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to have health issues and all of that. But when we think about the legacy of the great John Wooden, the great late John Wooden, and the time that he spent at Westwood and all the great young men that he developed that went on to greatness, not just in the NBA, but in life, Charlton. That's something that can never be matched again. They broke the mold when that one left.
Yeah, and I just hope that they return to prominence on the West Coast. And I think what hurts West Coast sports, they have this Pac-12 network, but they have too many of their games being played when people are ready for dinner. So you got to skip dinner to go to a game. In the East Coast, a lot of those schools, they don't play at dinner time. They're playing earlier games, so you can plan your day after the event as opposed to, skipping family time for a game. That's just my opinion. I do want to touch on some things that are happening in the world of horse racing. I know you like horses, Big C, and I know that the South is ready for Saturday coming up with the 145th Kentucky Derby, and hopefully the weather will hold up. And you think about Saturday's favorite, Omaha Beach pulls out. They're having some breathing issues. And so some of the...
Get him an inhaler. What's wrong with that? They got inhalers for horses. I mean, I use one. He gets one. I'm a horse.
Yeah, I even heard they have honey. If you get honey that was produced in the region where you're having the breathing problems or allergies, some people believe in that, but we're not sure. Also, think about some of the favorites. You have Omaha Beach pulling out. You have game winners 5-1, roasters 6-1, and then Improbable is also 6-1. So that opens up, some lanes for some other horses to win. I know that you guys love it in the South. What makes horse racing? It only lasts a few minutes. Why is that such a popular sport, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, it's called the most exciting 2 minutes in sports.
Yeah.
And there's always a barbecue grill available for those who don't win. Okay?
or glue factory.
I mean, when they talk about meat on the hoof, there's a lot of, and it's nice and lean when you look at the horses.
Right.
The Kentucky Derby is on the bucket list of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you think about how big an event this thing is coming. It's a mega event. 160,000 people attend.
Yeah.
But when I think about the history of the Kentucky Derby and all that's been lost in this great American, as they call, American sporting event now, people forget about the early years of the Kentucky Derby. I mean, if you think about the inaugural Kentucky Derby that was run, 13 of the 15 original jockeys in the Kentucky Derby were black.
Yep.
Think about that. They were African Americans. When this race started, this was a race that was run through African-American jockeys.
Yeah.
And they've been ostracized from this event. They won the first several Kentucky Derbies. The winningest jockey all time was African-American.
Yep.
It's been over a century since there's been an African-American jockey that has been able to ride in the Kentucky Derby because of racism and threats on their lives. And even when they ran the race, Charlton, they were always being bumped and hit by the white jockeys during those eras. So when we think about how Jim Crow and racism has affected the Kentucky Derby. This, as they say, historic American sporting event.
Yeah.
This is a sport that was dominated by African Americans, but through gentrification and racism, they were ostracized from the sport.
Yeah, and people need to know that too. Everybody wants to be able to compete in a country where we believe in liberty and justice for everybody. But there's a time when oftentimes you got to fight harder if you're African American, and that leads us into this story. When I think about Monday Night Football and how it started out back in the days with the late Howard Cosell, remember meeting Howard Cosell back in the day, and then seeing Danny Don and turn off the lights, the party's over. Seeing a lot of those things that happened in the booth. O.J. Simpson was in the booth, Lynn Swann, now Al Michaels and
Keith Jackson was the original play-by-play person for Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and nobody did it. And Nelly, he was the best at it. But everybody has their favor. But when you talk about...
They had your buddy Rush Limbaugh on there also.
No, he's not my buddy, but I know where he got his OxyContin from. He got the hook up with the doctors that hang around NFL players, Big C. But when you think about... It's 2019, and we talk about how doors are opening. Sometimes you got to kick them open, like Bum Phillips said from back in the day, the Houston Oilers. ESPN Monday Night broadcast team, Joe Tessitore, the play-by-play guy. Booger McFarland's moved up as a game analyst. Lisa Salters doing the sideline reporting, and former NFL referee John Perry to analyze the officiating. You said last year that Booger McFarland was better than just being the guy on the sideline. They always kept him out in the cold. They always kept him out being the guy that would give a 1-minute story. But he was better than the good old boy that they had in there from Dallas, that retired from Dallas, a tight end. So I would just congratulate opportunities. Doesn't matter to me what color somebody is, but as men of color, you got to make your own opportunity. Don't wait for someone to give you anything. But I hope that McFarland does a great job, and I believe he will. I want to get your thoughts on it, Big C.
Booger McFarland is a natural to be the analyst. I mean, he was really the game analyst, even though he was on the sideline last year.
Yeah.
Lisa Salters, it's proud to see an African-American woman once again being the sideline reporter in a major professional sporting event.
Yeah.
But Booger McFarland will bring so much grace and intelligence to Monday Night Football, something we haven't had in quite a few years. Joe Tessitore does a solid job in the play-by-play,
yep.
But Booger McFarland is the guy that Monday Night Football needed, and I think they got it right.
I think they got it right, and he's earned it, and there's a lot of people. I remember when I started back in broadcast back in San Francisco back in the mid-'90s, there are a lot of times I looked around. I was the only person of color until I got inside of the NFL locker room, because there's such cronyism in the broadcast booth. And when you see men of color that are able to get that same thing that white boys have been given, which is, hey, Joe, you want to come in and work in this broadcast booth? Joe, Bill, Bob, Dave, Dan, they all know how it happens. And I'm glad that, just like us with Big C Sports, don't wait for anybody to give you anything. Go take it. I want to get your thoughts, though. We're officially 3 months away from the NFL kickoff. The Atlanta Falcons, they'll play the Denver Broncos in the Hall of Fame game up in Ohio. Give me your feeling. Is it something that you're looking forward to? Is it as if we never took the NFL off because we just finished the draft? Your thoughts?
Well, you think about 3 months away. This is how important football is in society, that you're announcing that the opening game of the upcoming NFL season is 90 days away, 3 months away from today.
Yep.
But and this is the Hall of Fame game. But this is a game, Charlton, when you think about the Atlanta Falcons, this is a team that should be one of the highest scoring teams in the NFL in this upcoming season.
Yeah.
And a lot is expected of them. If they don't deliver this year, the Atlanta Falcons, there's going to be a lot of changes in that organization, starting with the head coach, Dan Quinn.
Yep. Well, Dan Quinn got a chance working with Pete Carroll's staff, and people blame him, or maybe they don't, for the situation with the Beast Mode not getting the ball. And, of course, Beast Mode stepped down, retiring from the Oakland Raiders, even though there's talk that he's willing to come back, but Gruden says no, we don't want players who've had success. See, that's what Gruden said. But give me your feeling as we're getting close to the NFL draft. We still look at college football. Still, everybody loves the game of college football, especially me. I've been watching it since I was a little boy. When you think about the 2020 draft, some projections at quarterback, Tua out of Alabama, pretty solid. There's Justin Herbert out of Oregon. There's also Fromm out of Georgia. Then the kid Chase Young out of Ohio State, which seems to be the new quarterback university of the North. When we look north for quarterbacks, oftentimes you might have thought It wasn't Ohio State. They were a running team. Just give me your feeling on anyone excite you for a college kickoff coming up. Your thoughts?
Well, when we look at these quarterbacks, these are always early predictions. I mean, you can go back just basically any year in college football and think who might be the number one quarterback coming out. Did anybody realize it would be Kyler Murray and Dwayne Haskins, one-year starters? It's always projections on guys who've been around a couple of years. Drew Lock, 4-year starter in Missouri. He didn't go until the second round.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, 3-year starter at Duke, the surprise pick of everybody in the draft. Will Greer's been a solid production at West Virginia. So when we come out with these early preseason prognosticators about who's going to be the next great guy going in the NFL draft, I know everybody's talked about tanking for Tua. There's no NFL team that will tank because there's 53 guys on the roster. And you're not tanking hoping that they get one guy and you lose your job and you won't be there when that guy comes around. So that's something that's made up by the media.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert, we saw him falter throughout the regular season.
Right.
We saw Tua when it got down to prime time. He could not produce. So there's going to be some young upstart that we didn't know anything about at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Justin Fields, I really like Justin Fields, who's going to be the quarterback at Ohio State this year, the transfer out of Georgia.
Yeah.
I look at Jacob Eason, who's going to be the quarterback at the University of Washington, who also transferred out of the University of Georgia. There are going to be some quarterbacks. Don't take your eyes off Jalen Hurts, who left Alabama, who is now at Oklahoma. Look at what Lincoln Riley has done with the last two quarterbacks he's had at Oklahoma.
Yep.
Number one overall draft pick in the NFL. Stanford has a couple of young quarterbacks out there in the Pac-12. There are a lot of quarterbacks around the country who will be worthy of getting drafted.
Let me get your feeling on when we look over the past, say, 30 years, we talk about who are the all-time great players in the NFL. We do it for NBA, Major League Baseball. When you think about college quarterbacks, sometimes being an All-American doesn't always translate well when you play pro ball against other men who get paid to tackle you and stop you. Give me your feeling. I want Big C's thoughts, even if you go over the past 30, 40 years. Any great college quarterbacks that when they got to the next level, it just didn't pan out, even though we put so much emphasis on it, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the emphasis is always pushed out there through the media. When you look at quarterbacks who have produced in the Super Bowl, and I think that's the benchmark for all great quarterbacks, who has produced in the Super Bowl. And we look at quarterbacks that have won recent Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Where were they taken in the draft? I mean, Nick Foles came out of the University of Arizona, was not even a highly touted quarterback coming out of Arizona.
Yeah.
He won a Super Bowl. Tom Brady's won 6 of them. Nobody even wanted to draft the kid.
That's right.
It took 3 days for him to get drafted.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson did not go until the 3rd round. So when we talk about productivity at the quarterback position and overlooking people, Doug Williams he was a first-round draft pick, but he ended up being a free agent with the Washington Redskins, winning a Super Bowl. Jim Plunkett, same thing. Number 1 draft pick, ended up being a free agent, not in the NFL Hall of Fame.
That's a shame.
So when we think about guys elevating to the level, Jim Kelly didn't win a Super Bowl, but he went to 4 of them, 4 consecutive Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So when you talk about greatness, it transcended from college to the NFL. He's not just the one guy on the team. Not one player will win a championship. You need a team effort in these situations. I look at Troy Aikman, lived up to his billing coming out of UCLA after transferring from Oklahoma.
Yep.
Oklahoma's produced so many great quarterbacks that people don't even realize it, what has come out of there. So when we think about quarterbacks over time, Terry Bradshaw out of Louisiana Tech. He started off at LSU prior to transferring to Louisiana Tech. So the SEC has produced a Super Bowl winning quarterback. People just don't really realize it.
Yeah.
There's been so many super talents that have come into the NFL. It's not the Heisman Trophy winners who win the Super Bowls when you think about it. Only Jim Plunkett has dominated winning the Heisman Trophy and the Super Bowl coming out of college. And can't get into the Hall of Fame. There's been a great wrath of quarterbacks over time. It's about getting into the right system. We see so many great guys perform on the college level, but they don't have the proper personnel when they get to that program. And we're talking, about quarterbacks. Daniel Jones will be the subject over the next 5 to 10 years in the NFL. Did the Giants get it right? He reminds me more of Kerry Collins than he does of any quarterback that the Giants had. And Kerry Collins was originally drafted by the Giants. Took him to a Super Bowl, got blindsided by the Baltimore Ravens. But he did not live up to the hype. And other quarterbacks who didn't live up to hype. Think about Todd Blackledge, who was drafted out of Penn State by the Kansas City Chiefs. Only if he'd have got a glimpse of what Patrick Mahomes was doing as a player during his day.
Yes.
But there's been so many great quarterbacks over the years that get all this hype coming out of college. Paxton Lynch, that your buddy John Elway drafted. and they never deliver on the pro level. Look at what Dak Prescott has done since coming into the NFL. He's the winningest quarterback in the NFC since coming into the NFL. And yet he's been maligned, and he was a fourth-round draft pick.
Yeah, that's true.
So it doesn't always equate because you're a first-round draft pick. You have all the hype behind you, and everybody's saying you're set for stardom.
Yeah.
You have to win in the NFL.
You got to win in the NFL. And you got to stay healthy. And we know it's all fair and love and war. I wish every college kid the opportunity to get drafted, to think about being drafted, but also have plans if it doesn't happen. We know NBA is fantastic. I love the NBA playoffs. It's just so exciting. Major League Baseball, a lot of empty seats. Boston, congratulations, $3 tickets. What a bargain. We know NHL is also fabulous. So we look forward to it all on Big C Sports. We'll bring it to you. You can follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts. You can also follow Big C Sports on Xfinity Comcast. We thank you for all your support. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking for a dramatic game 2 tonight in Portland with the Blazers and the Nuggets.
Yeah.
The Blazers are in desperation mode tonight. Damian Lillard, we know that he can produce offensively. Do they have enough defensive stop power to slow down the Nuggets?
Well, when I see nuggets, I like eating them. Maybe they better find a way to eat some nuggets, Big C. You like nuggets, you can eat them too every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C, in them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.